So I'm going to record this, so as that I'll send you the link to this so you can pass it on to your business partner as well, so he can watch it in his own time, so you can both benefit from this. And if we don't get Dan back, then he can watch the link as well. So welcome to our August edition of Sales Mastery. The workshops, so Zach hasn't been to one of these before, but there's a series of 6 workshops that I do every quarter. They rotate between self-mastery, time management, finance, marketing, sales, customer, repeat business, and team. So what I would say is the 6 fundamentals to grow your business. You've got to be working on these at various times during the development of the business. And so I rotate these, there's 2 a month over 6 months. And so Zach, a bit of a taster for you to come along to this one. And then potentially there'll be more as we go. So, there's Paul. Welcome back, Paul.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. You had a bit of some technical issues, did you?
Yeah. The Wi-Fi couldn't handle it, bless it.
Okay. But you're here now. So a different room, was it?
Different connection, start all over again.
Cool. So I did a very bad job of introducing your business, I think. I probably mispronounced the company name. So did you want to just introduce yourself to the guys?
Yeah, of course. And yeah, apologies again for that little technical glitch. So yeah, I'm Paul. I'm the International Sales Manager for ACEEM. So I don't know what you went with, but ACEEM is the name of the company.
I said Acme.
It's a little bit like Roadrunner.
Yeah.
For those of us who
yeah, ACEEM is much nicer name.
Yeah. So it's a French company. It's Atelier de Construction d'Immobilier Médical, obviously.
Right.
That's an acronym for, sort of a medical equipment workshop. So it's based in northern France, subsidiaries in the UK and Germany, and a global network that myself and a colleague do our best to look after.
Brilliant. And you look after the whole of EMEA, do you?
So it's actually global. So
okay.
Beyond
the
subsidiaries, it's myself and one other that manage the rest of world business. So my remit, I joined the business just over a year ago, was really to pick up new business anywhere and everywhere. So 3 weeks ago I was in Miami. Next week I'm off to Singapore.
Right. As you say, could be anywhere, but cool. Good. So I was just saying to guys, this is one of a series of 6 workshops that I cover, what I would say the fundamentals of business, from time management, finance, marketing, customer, and team. So those are the sort of the key areas, and they repeat every 3 months. There's always a different audience. So I always say to people, Gary's been to a few of these over the years, so it's always good to come back, because while the basics are the same, how we interpret those basics can change, depending on who's in the room. Obviously, we can take this on an international basis as well with you, Paul. But if you understand the fundamentals, then you can apply it to whatever sales you're doing. It really doesn't matter what you sell. The process is the key part to making it work. So what I look for each of these is, is there a specific goal that you'd like to get out of today? So I did ask you sort of before, is there a challenge that you're facing? Sometimes it's a little bit more general, just get a bit of a sort of a refresher. But Paul, anything specific you sort of want me to cover today?
I mean, I had 2 areas that I highlighted. I think one was, I suppose it's conveying a value proposition. And what I mean by that is we compete, obviously in a global marketplace with a range of companies which go from, I'm sure any of us will have watched pick any Channel 4 hospital drama, and you'll see a Stryker stretcher. So, those very powerful big global brands at one end. And then at the other end, you have, without wanting to be too stereotypical, you have Chinese products that are, very much low cost. And it's it's how you put that value proposition across to a customer that I suppose it's, why buy my product versus anyone else's, and just really conveying that, why buy from me kind of thing. And as I say, how I think I put it to you is value versus cost, because I see them as two very, very different things.
Oh, 100%.
And so I'll leave that there for now.
And
then the other one, the other one for me was is really the dynamics of the kind of post-COVID apocalypse we're living in, and for me that means a lot of remote selling, especially internationally. How you overcome those kind of challenges. So any experience that anyone has to throw into that particular challenge I'd be grateful to hear.
Yeah, that's great. There'll be an area where I'll go into that. So if you could remind me about the remote aspect of it when we get there, you'll know when we get there. So just say, okay, so how does that work on a remote? Then I'll go into a bit more detail, because it is slightly different doing it remotely, but the process is the same. That's the key thing to understanding from this, is the process is the same. How you apply the process is a bit that changes depending on many aspects, which hopefully you'll pick up from as we go through. So cool, good. Zach, anything specific for you?
Yeah, I'm looking to find out like the best ways to find decision makers, and also how to reach out to them.
Okay.
And once we do reach out to them, what exactly am I supposed to say?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Today is not going to be about reaching out. I do that in the marketing side of things, but this is once they do engage with you, then what do you say? Okay. So I'll definitely cover that. Yeah. So, and so decision makers, at what level are we looking at? What type of businesses? Paul's going to hospitals. What type of client base are you targeting?
We've got, for example, manufacturers, medical equipment companies, kitchen manufacturing companies. It could be anything really.
Okay, so we can build it around manufacturers, because it will change slightly, but again, the process is the same. But then you can just apply what you learn from manufacturers to the other industries that you actually target. So, okay, cool. Gary?
It was just how to close. So not to be self-deprecating and not to say anything in the closing sort of speech to a customer or potential client, and to put myself across in a good, positive way, as in why would you buy from me? To make sure I sell my service properly. I guess I need to work on a script, possibly, and then that as a default script, and then just kind of add and subtract where necessary. Because I've just recently got CHAS accredited, and when I'm talking to clients, I completely forget to tell them that I've got CHAS accredited. And I'm like, actually, that's a flipping big deal. And when it comes to domestic clients, they don't necessarily care too much about the CHAS. But now that I'm starting to chase the bigger fish, like the NHS contracts, I have to be reminded in my head to tell them that I am CHAS accredited. So it's to have that sort of a default pitch, if you can call it that, and just to work on that. So
again, a bit like Paul was saying about the value proposition. So cool, excellent. So we'll definitely cover those when we get to those particular areas. If you want me to sort of explore how it would work with a particular sort of sector, particular case, then just shout and I'll go into a bit more detail with it. So cool. So I want to take us back right to the sort of the high level to start with, because I think we got to put sales in the context of what the real game of business is, which is generating profit. So how do we generate profit within our organizations? And for me, there are 5 ways that we generate the profit within our business. First one is we have to generate leads. We have to get those inquiries coming in, and that really is marketing. So if we look at sort of this level here, if I can get my lovely pen to work, that out of the way. So if we're here, this is marketing. Okay, so this is all about getting the message out there and getting people to actually interact with us with a view that they have an interest to buy what we're selling. The conversion then, this part here, is sales. So this is what we're going to be focused on today. Okay, that how do I take that lead and convert it into a new customer? Once we've got that customer, then I'm into these two here, which is how do I get that customer to come back to me on a regular basis? And how do I get them to buy more from me? Now, this is generally 6 times easier than this. Okay, this is the hard bit of growing a business. This is generally much, much easier. Okay, and I do this in my customer workshop, customer mastery. So how do I get more out of my existing clients? So the first thing we've got to understand in sales is we have to break this down into its component parts. There's no good just saying, I want more sales. We've got to start thinking about what is it that we really want to have. Okay, and the reason that the more clarity we have around what we want to have is there's a little formula that I use, and you'll see this on all of my workshops, and I'm sort of a great believer in this, is this little formula. If you want to be successful at anything in life, doesn't matter what it is, this formula must stack up. Who do I need to be? Yeah. What do I need to do? And what do I want to have? So what are my dreams and my goals? Yeah. What's my attitude, knowledge, and skills? And what's my plan and my action? What do I need to do to actually make things work? So if I said to you, Paul, if you want to have more sales, yeah, all of these 3, you've got to have all 3 together, but one of them to me is far more important than the other 2. So for you, Paul, which one of those 3 would it be? The be, the do, or the have?
Well, I think the have is what underpins the other 2.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, but it's the do. So I think, well, certainly in my situation, I think I would suggest, certainly the be for me, it also within there is experience.
Yeah.
So I think I have, I would add in experience and say
good point.
that all of that. Sometimes it's the plan and the action that sometimes don't always translate to where you want them to get to, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's are there different plans and different actions that I can add to the mix, which I guess that's was the point of.
And if you don't have new knowledge and new skills, then you end up doing the same old thing, expecting a different result. So I think, going back to the original question, which is the most important, I think you were right when you said to start with, the have is always the most important. So clarity around the goal that you want to achieve, for me, is fundamental. So there's no good as saying, I want more sales and that's my goal, because that isn't clear enough. Well, what is more sales? 1 more sale? 1,000 more sales? A sale of what? A sale of something that makes no money. So we've really got to, before we even start in identifying what our sales process is, we've got to be clear what our target is. Okay, and I said I'll do with some of this in marketing about lead generation, but I'll give a little bit more insight into this as we go into some numbers. So we've got to understand what our sales goals really are. Okay, and I find this when I do my sales training, I do this in sort of big corporates and teams. When I say to them, so what are our sales targets for this quarter? And I get all these sort of fluffy sort of goals it doesn't really make much sense. And I said, well, no wonder you don't know what you need to do, because you don't really know what the goal is. And I can sort of, what I do in business coaching, the same as a sports coach would go with an athlete. The first question a sports coach goes to an athlete is saying, well, what do you want to achieve? Because if you want to go and win a gold medal at the next Olympics, you're going to have to be and do a darn sight more if you just want to sort of turn up and play, football for the local pub. So depending on what you want to achieve, that drives the level of be and the do that you need to apply. So the first thing we've got to do is when we look at sort of, I said look at your sales goals for next year, yeah, you'd probably come something like this. Last year, 2019, I did 2.6 million, made a profit of 290,000. 2020, I did 3.2 million, 380. So Gary, what would a goal based on these figures be for 2021? If you were setting the goals for your company, for 2021, what would you sort of hazard a guess that they would be?
Is that 20% increase?
Okay, maybe a 20% increase. Yeah. So if we set a 20% increase on that, we're looking at probably what? Let's say 4 million. Oops. I can't get my pen to work now. Come on, pen. There we go. So we'd be 4 million there, and then that as a percentage of that is probably something like 500,000, yeah? And that's where most people would set their sales target. Yeah. Based on last year, I want a 10% increase, a 5% increase, a 20% increase. The problem with this is you're just making figures up. You're just plucking figures out of the air. The first thing that we need to do when we're setting sales targets is get a lot more analytical and break it down into its component parts. Because as I showed you before, there's a sales figure. There's actually 4 things, yeah, leads, conversion rates, average transaction value, number of transactions that can influence that sales figure. So if we break this down into a little bit more detail, you can start to see where we can actually influence. So if this was those 2 years, our existing customers, yeah, actually produced 2 million of our sales. So this is the number of customers that we've got to 2,000 sales. Our active customers of those are around about 400. They actually buy from us about £5,000 per transaction. We get about 1 to 1.3 orders per year, which would give us our 2.6 and 3.1 figure. Yeah. Then bring into our margins and our profitability gives us our profitability here. So now if we start setting what should our 2021 goals be, we'd start seeing that we need to get strategies to actually get rid of some of this dead wood, get some new customers, but also there's lots of customers on your database that you're marketing to that basically you're just wasting your time because they've gone. So cleansing the database, building new customers in. So we've got to therefore say, right, out of all of those customers that we've got, can we get our existing customers to actually buy more from us? So more customers to have that repeat business. Can we get them to buy a little bit more from us each time they buy? So you can start seeing here that small increases in these numbers, these are not big increases, a couple of hundred new customers, sort of a 5% increase on our average transaction value, getting people to come back a little bit more, suddenly has this big impact on our sales figure. So we're not 3.1 million, we're actually saying the potential for next year is 5.5 million. Yeah. Improve our margins as well with some gross profit margin strategies and maintain or reduce our overheads. Suddenly, rather than setting a target of 500,000, we should be looking at 1.5 million. So we've got to get away from just sort of saying, oh, it's last year plus 10%, 20%. Yeah, we've got to start breaking the numbers down and saying, okay, so what is achievable? What can we actually go out there and actually make happen? Could we get on this basis, 200 new customers in a year? We did 160 last year. Could we get 40 more than we did, 1 more per week than we did last year? Okay. Then have we got the strategies, the marketing strategies to actually achieve that? If we're looking at our conversion rates, what are our conversion rates to actually get those customers to actually buy? There's sort of 19% to 29%. Can we get more of them to actually actively buy from us? So we've really got to start looking at, do we really know our numbers within our business? our existing client, our new business, our average transaction value, number of leads, the conversion rates? Do we understand leading key performance indicators and lagging? A leading key KPI is the activity that we do. A lagging is the result that we get from that activity. And are we breaking this down into company, department, product, service? Because Paul, for you, I'm assuming you sell a variety of products and services. So have we got these numbers for each one of those? Because there'll be some that will outperform the others. And are we putting focus on the ones that are, have more potential, or are we flogging dead horses? Okay, so one of the key things to this is to take away from this is you've got to go back and really look at your business model and break it down into its component parts. If you go back to the Olympic sort of cycling team, when they made that transition to becoming sort of also rans to being the world's best, they had this concept of marginal gains. We're going to break down what it takes to be successful at cycling. And we're going to improve each one of those bits by 1 or 2%, and then we're going to put all those bits back together again. If we don't know what the component parts of our bicycle are, our sales process, then we're going to just be doing the same old thing day in, day out, and expecting different results and being frustrated as to why it's not working. So we've got to have that ability to stand back from what we're actually doing, lay it out on the table, break it down into its component parts, and try and improve each individual piece, rather than saying, I've just got to increase sales. Because, most time you do that, the worst thing is sometimes you do that and the market actually goes up, your sales go up, and you think you've done a really good job. That's like, cycling, and you're cycling around, suddenly there's a tailwind and you actually beat your personal best. Well, it's nothing to do what you did. It's just the wind was there. So when the wind disappears next time, you're back to where you were before. So it's understanding what you're in control of, what you're doing, as opposed to what happens just generally. So once you've got that sort of broken down, then you can start to set your SMART goals. Now, hopefully you've seen this SMART goals before: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, within a time frame. Because a lot of goals I find are fluffy goals. I want more sales. It's a fluffy goal. I want to improve my conversion rate from 37% to 39%. That is a hard goal. That's something I can hang my coat on. It's specific, it's measurable. Can I achieve it realistically in a time frame? Yes, I can. Okay, so now I've got accountability and responsibility over that goal. Just increasing something, it's too vague. And our brains need something to actually focus on, to go for. The other thing I would add, though, is make your goals inspiring and emotional as well. Okay, and I call that the smartification of goals. So if it doesn't get you excited, if you don't sit there going, yes, 37% to 39% conversion rate, that's going to have a massive impact. That's going to make me feel really good when I achieve that. Then you're not going to put the effort in that you need in order to make it happen. Okay, so goals need to be inspiring and emotional, as well as SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, and realistic. So, any questions on sort of understanding the goals? I know you're probably not in a position where you can do that. Maybe, Paul, the organization already has that. But to me, there's always, even if you've got it, there's always a deeper level you can go. Break it down into more component parts and see what you can improve. Gary?
I have a quick question. Can you, this is one thing where I get stuck with like having goals or these targets, is that you just said it there, the difference between a hard achievable goal and a fluffy achievable goal.
Yeah.
Could you give just a few more examples of what would be this, like, specific, the hard sort of goals, so that your brain can sort of know and like to aim for? What would be some examples of those?
I mean, the easiest one in sales, it does, obviously this affects everything in life, but the easiest one in sales is there a number on it, and is there a date on it?
Okay.
If there's a number and a date, it's going to be pretty smart. Okay, so if the goal is I want £10,000 of sales, yeah, of actual invoice sales by the end of the month, that's a smart goal. That's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic in time frame.
Okay.
Okay. Part of that is I'm saying though is you've got to understand what creates the 10,000. So maybe it's not 10,000. Maybe it's sub goals. It's right. I need 5 new leads, which I can, or 6 new leads, which I convert at 30%. Yeah, which will give me 2 new clients, each of those spending £5,000, which will equal £10,000. Now that's even more detailed on my goal, because I've now broken that one big goal, the 10,000, into smaller, more achievable goals. Because if your brain can't see how I can achieve it, yeah, may not know, it's got to see the process to actually achieve it. May not understand how to achieve it, but those are the questions you then ask about what you need to do to make it happen. How do I get my conversion rate from 37% to 39%? I don't know. Okay, so therefore I need to work on my B. I need the knowledge to work out better ways to actually improve my conversion rate. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that's very good. Thank you.
Cool. Paul, Zach, any further points from you? All good? Excellent.
No,
yeah, Paul.
From me, just an observation. I think it highlights, if I didn't already know, and I think I probably did, but it just reinforces that, yeah, I was kind of brought in with the task of go and grow the business. and it actually, it's reassuring, actually, because it tells me that there's certain things that I've been feeding back, and I get the sort of, well, a good salesperson would just get on with it. There's no but. So there's things that it encourages me that I need to go back and ask, I think.
The bigger the organization, the worse they are at this. I found it's not okay. It's one of the big challenges when I coach at the high sort of CEO level, business owner level, trying to get them to understand what their 5-year plan is, their 10-year plan is. Where are we going to be in 10 years? What is the big goal here? Very often they just give me this blank look. So I have to say, right, well, we've got to go shoot for something. So let's put we've got a big, hairy, audacious goal. What if we couldn't fail? What would we go for? Great. So let's go for that. And then we'll break it down, and then we'll see if we look at it and go, geez, we're never going to achieve that. Okay, then we'll reduce it. But every time I do that, it always amazes me that they all go, blimey, actually, that looks really easy. They actually underestimate what their potential is. Yeah, once you break it down, they go, like I did show you those numbers, you suddenly think, well, actually, we were thinking small when we were thinking 500,000. Just by a few things and focus, we could get to 1.5 million. And I would say, from a sales point of view, if you go in expecting your CEO and the owners to actually know that, ask them the question. But if they don't know that, then I think you need to take the responsibility and go, okay, well, you don't know that. What about this then? And actually do their numbers for them and say, look, I think with a bit of wind, I could achieve this. Okay, you're going to have to invest some resource to make that happen. Okay, I'm going to need this, I'm going to need that, but you're the one that says that ability to drive it. The danger with this, danger with setting goals, and the reason why most people don't set goals is the fear of failure. What if I don't make it? Okay, but that's like saying to an Olympic athlete, don't set the goal of winning a gold medal, because the chances are you're not going to win it, so don't bother. No one would do that. If you come second or come third, or even if you just compete, you're going to be a lot further forward than you were if you didn't do it at all. So we've got to get away from this fact that if we set a goal, that failure, not achieving the goal, is a failure. Okay, not achieving the goal is just a learning of how not to do it, or actually we need to be B, or we need to do more. And the more that it might just take a little bit longer than we first thought. But if we don't have that goal, if we don't have something to move towards, then we're probably just going to chip along at 2 or 3% growth, none of which is probably down to us at all. And I think, well, where's the fun on that? If you're going to get on the football pitch, then go out and play to win. Okay, you might come away and lost 10-0, but at least you gave it a go. Okay. So once we know what the goal is, then we can start to work on our beliefs, our B. So who do I need to be? And our beliefs are, for a lot of people, are limiting beliefs. Everyone has beliefs that help them move forwards, and everyone has beliefs that hold them back. And what I find in business is a lot of people are not necessarily salespeople. Okay, Paul, that you've dedicated your life to sales, I'm assuming. Gary's come from the trades background. Zach, I know you've had a number of sort of business ventures. We don't always see ourselves as being salespeople, and it's that thing that our sales skills, are they born or are they bred? Were you born a salesperson? So when you're looking, because another thing would be when you're looking to employ salespeople, are you looking for that natural salesperson? And the reality I've found by studying this over years and actually going through this process myself, when I started my own business, I'd never sold anything to anybody ever. I'd never even worked in McDonald's, so I hadn't even sat at a counter and sold a cheeseburger to somebody. And I thought, oh, geez, now I've got to go out and sell. Perhaps I need to learn how to sell. And this is where a lot of what I teach today comes from, is my desire to actually learn how to do this. But if you looked at, I don't know if you guys have got kids, or, your kids have grown up, or you were a kid at some stage. But if you think about these kids here, are kids at this sort of age natural salespeople? Could they sell you a glass of lemonade if they wanted to?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. Doesn't matter what they are. Yeah. You put any child between the age of probably 4 and 8 years old and ask them to sell something, they'll sell it. And you'll see this if you've got kids yourself. If they want a ice cream, they know how to pull your strings to actually get an ice cream. Okay, they are great salespeople. But when it comes to actually being salespeople ourselves, we forget that we've got these natural skills, because other things get in the way. We end up with this self-doubt, and we're actually selling to different people, and actually it matters. If you don't sell lemonade to your dad, it doesn't really matter. If you don't sell your services to a customer, and you don't get to invoice, you don't get paid, then then there's a consequence. So suddenly we start to get that fear factor that kicks in. So we've got to understand that there's these 4 stages of learning anything. So if we are learning these skills, we've got to understand where we are in these 4 stages. So if we're learning sales skills, this is what we've got to know. The first stage is this unconscious incompetence. So when you first come into anything, you don't know what you don't know. You're unconsciously stupid. Okay, so when I first came into sales, or before I came into sales, I didn't know I needed to sell. It was just new to me. And then something happens that turns you from unconscious incompetence into consciously incompetent. Now you do know you don't know. Okay, so Zach, when you moved from unconsciously incompetent into consciously incompetent, how did you feel once you were in this box? Here you're blissfully unaware. It's a great place to be, like a 2-year-old kid. Two-year-old children got no cares in the world. But suddenly now you're consciously incompetent. You're consciously not great at something. How do you feel when you're at that stage?
Well, not very good.
No, it's not a nice place to be, is it?
No,
I know I'm not very good at something.
Yeah.
The problem is, once you're in here, can you go back into here?
No.
No, you can't unlearn something. Okay, the only way to go from here to here is to take drugs or drink alcohol. Okay, because then you don't care anymore. But you can't unlearn something from here. So you've got two options. One is to stay here and then start blaming, making excuses, whinging, moaning. Okay, so it's everyone else's fault. The reason I'm not selling is because the economy. The reason I'm not selling is because, you know, inflation. The reason I'm not selling is because of the Ukrainian war. The reason I'm not selling is this. Yeah, you make excuses, you blame other things. It's not my fault, it's everyone else's fault. Or you have to make the transition into this box here. You've got to learn some new skills in order to perform where you are. So in a recession, yeah, you've got to learn different skills, try different things, yeah, to actually be competent at what you're trying to do. So that transition here is hard work. You've got to learn some new things. You've got to come onto a webinar like this and be open to actually, okay, maybe there's a different way to look at things and try different things as you go. You've also got to be prepared to fail. So if you remember back to when you were taking your driving lessons, yeah, from consciously incompetent, I don't know how to drive a car, to consciously competent, yeah, I can drive it with support. Yeah, did you stall your car a few times? Yeah. Did you make a few wrong turns? Did you hit a few curbs? Did you run over the odd dog? Okay, so you've got to be prepared to fail, but keep trying, because that goal that you set is so important to you, yeah, that it keeps you going. If that goal isn't strong enough, you won't go through the work that's needed to get to here. Now, Paul, if you get to this stage, consciously competent at something, how do you feel when you're in this box here? So I'm conscious, so I have to think about it. I have to try hard. I have to work at it.
There's an expectation then that there's going to be some outcomes.
There's going to be, yeah. So I'm starting to expect results. But when we don't get that result, what happens?
Frustration.
Okay, I start to get angry. I start to get really fed up with things. It's not going as well as it should. I should be better than this. I should be getting more results than I am actually getting. Now, once you're here, yeah, the danger is you go back to here. And what did I say that happens when you're in this box? The only way to stay in this box is to
not learn.
Yeah, you're not learning. Okay, but if you stay in this box, you have to start blaming, making excuses. Well, I didn't really want it anyway. Yeah, that sales target we set last year, yeah, there's no way we're going to achieve that. So I think next year we'll cut it down by half. So this is hard work. This takes effort. This is where the challenge is. It's easy to jump back into here, into blame, excuses, and denial. Yeah, rather than what we want to do is push forwards and keep trying, keep learning, keep developing, testing and measuring. You know, can I get a little bit better? You know, it's pushing for that gold medal. Every time you push for a gold medal, you've got to be prepared to fail. But once you get there, once you're unconsciously competent, yeah, Gary, when you're in here now, how do you feel?
It feels sort of streamlined, that it just kind of, you naturally do things without having to think about it.
It's easy. You know, if you drive your car now, you know, you can probably do 3 other things while you're driving. You don't think about it. It's at a subconscious level, you're able to do it. The problem with where you're in here, if you're in this or sales, yeah, I've been in sales for years. I find it quite easy. The problem if you're in here, yeah, what's the danger?
Complacency.
Okay, because what you're not doing is you get comfortable with hitting the goals, hitting the sales targets, but what you're not doing is raising the bar. Because actually you're not here, you're here. You're actually unconsciously incompetent. You're unconsciously incompetent at the next level. So that would be like me if I was say I was a runner, you know, a 100-meter runner, and I could run pretty easily, you know, 12-second 100 meters, and I win always at my local club, and I do really, really well. And I go, you know what? I'm okay here. But what I haven't realized, I haven't made that consciously decision to say, actually, at the higher level, if I wanted to go up to the regionals or the nationals or Olympic, I've got to be running sub 9 seconds. Oh shit, that looks like hard work. Oh, perhaps I won't bother. And this is where most people in sales get to. They get to this level of unconsciously competent at the level they're playing at, but actually don't push themselves to that next level, whatever that next level is. And if you can think about it, so if you stay in any one of these boxes for too long, you get bored, complacent, and end up blame, excuse, denial. You can't help it. The beauty of life is the ability to transcend and always be moving around here. So if I'm here, I'm consciously competent, I should be moving towards what's the next thing I need to learn. If I'm here, I'm working hard on getting better at it. If I'm here, I want to master it. And this to me is like the essence of life. This is why, athletes, and anyone in sport is always practicing. They're always getting better. But in sales, I see it so many times that salespeople get to a certain level and then they stop. They don't keep developing their skills that they need to play that game at a high level. And that's because we've all naturally got this comfort zone that as soon as we get comfort, then we'll just stay where we are. And we'll find it for ourselves, but certainly when you start recruiting people, you've got to make sure you keep them working around this circle. Paul, have you seen this? I know you're quite experienced in sales. Have you seen sort of cases of this in the past?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I've seen people come into a previous business and they, very quickly, it's apparent that, they're not going to stay in the business, basically.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, they don't get it, so they leave. But one of the most dangerous is where you get a sales team full of these people. And I've seen it so many times that, it just stops the business growing because, there's more potential there, but, they're doing okay. So why push yourselves any further if you're doing okay? So as a sales manager, sales director, we've always got to be raising the bar. Same as you would do if you were coaching, an athletics team, the high jump, right, you can jump at 1 meter 30, so we'll put it to 1 meter 40. You can jump that 1 meter 50. Okay, because we do like to be pushed, and sales is a game that we play. So let's keep pushing the boundaries of what we can actually achieve. And coming back to sort of ourselves, in order to master anything, there's a concept of 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours of learning the right things, perfect practice, gets you to be a master of something. So if you want to be the master of sales, you've got to do 10,000 hours of sales. Now, it's no good doing 1 year of sales and then repeating that for 10 years. This is a continual learning process. So what are we doing ourselves? What are we doing as a sales team to actually enhance those skills that we need to continue that growth? Okay. And, the good thing with sales is you're not short of literature to read. It's probably one of the biggest topics that's ever been written about, that and probably leadership. But, there are so many good books around sales and people who have been in sales, that we can actually grow. Now with podcasts, some of the best people out there are, talking all the time about techniques, new ways. Now, a lot of it is repeat. It's the same stuff. I'm going to teach you the key process, which you only really need that process, but it's the little bits you put on top of it that keep you at the top of your game. So getting your teams talking about it, learning from each other's mistakes. What were the 5 sales that you lost this month? Okay, what did we do wrong? What could we have done better? Where did it actually go wrong? And again, you look in sport, if we don't win a game, they're back at the table watching the TV, breaking it down, finding out where we went wrong, so we can actually play at a higher level when we come out next time. The other part of the B side of things is understanding what type of salesperson we are, okay? Because we all play the game in a slightly different way. There's not one way to do sales. And there's a thing that we use a lot. It's called DISC profiling. It's a behavioral profile. I don't know if anyone's come across. I know, Gary, we've done some work on it. Paul, Zach, have you heard of DISC profiling? So you have, Paul? Yeah, have you used it?
Yeah, in the past. Yeah, I've had one of those done. Yeah.
Cool. So it's quite simple. DISC is what it stands for, DISC. It should be DICS, but DICS profiling doesn't sound quite as good as DISC profiling. And it basically says, look, there's 4 types of people. There's outgoing, extrovert people. There's introverted, reserved people. There's people, and task-focused people. So, another way to think about it is a powerful, strong people, popular people, peaceful people, and perfect people. Okay, that generally we will fall into one of those. So have a think about it. And if you had to put yourself in one of those boxes, which box would you put in? Just make a note of that. Okay, we'll come back to that in a few minutes. So the key to this is understanding that D's, so if you're an outgoing, task-focused person, you will communicate best to which of these 4 profiles. Zach, what would you guess? So if you're a high D, an outgoing, extrovert, task-focused person, who would you best communicate to out of these profiles?
Would it be the S, the opposite to you?
S, Gary, yeah, Zach?
I.
Okay, Paul, any advance on S and I?
C.
Give you C, so one of us will be right.
So you'll get for C. So we've got I, S, and C. Okay, maybe I misworded the question. I said, which one of the 4, would you be best at selling to? See, D's are best at selling to D's because they speak the same language. I's are great at selling to I's because they speak the same language. S's understand S's, so they're best at selling to them. C's are best at selling to C's. So if you understand your profile and know which one of these you are, you will find if you do your conversion rate will be the highest selling to people like you. You'll find that generally quite easy. Where you'll struggle is people in the opposite corner. So I's will struggle with C's. D's will struggle with S's. S's will struggle with D's, and C's will struggle with I's. D's and C's will find a way. D's and I's will find a way. I's and S's will find a way. Okay, so once we do this profiling, we've actually now got an actual sales profile that we can actually do this and really understand from a sales point of view what your profile is. It really helps us to understand what type of salesperson we actually are. So taking that on board, we end up with these sort of 4 types of salespeople that we are ourselves, or we will certainly come across. The first thing is the order taker. So somebody who is really good at taking orders. They listen, they work with the client, but it's very much a reactive role. Okay, so they wait for somebody to ask if they can buy. So which one of those profiles, DISC, would you say the order taker is?
Reserved.
Reserved? CS, probably the S. Okay, we normally say the order taker is the S. They're subservient, looking to help other people. Okay, then you've got the person who's can be the product bore. The person really knows their stuff. Okay, so really can get across how great the product is. Which one of those profiles would that be? We're talking about somebody who really knows the details. So the task focused. C. Okay, so somebody who's introverted but really understands their stuff. Then you've got the overseller, somebody who will promise the world, can talk the monkeys from the trees. Okay, sell sand to the Arabs, you know, ice to the Eskimos.
That's D.
Could be the D. I'll show you. The D comes next.
So
this is generally the I.
I was on mute and I said the I.
The I. Okay, this is the person who's, yeah, very outgoing, very outspoken. You know, he's very good at influencing people. I stands for influence. And then you've got the pushy seller, the person that pushes it and sort of, you know, can beat you into the sale, gets you to where you need to get to. That would generally be the D. Okay, now you can see there, that's what I would say is the negative side. But for each one of those, you can see the positive side as well. You know, the D gets on with it and gets the sale, gets the person across the line. The I inspires people, makes them feel good. The S is attentive and looks after the customer. The C gives them all the detail they need. So what we've got to understand is, you know, if we want to be a great salesperson, we need an element of all of those four within us. We need to be the problem solver. We need to be inspiring when we need to be inspiring, dominant when we need to be dominant, cautious, calculating, attention to detail when we want to be that, supportive when we want to be that. Now, the problem with that is naturally we generally are one or two of those profiles. To be all four all the time is hard work. So what can happen as you build a sales team, you have certain people with certain attributes doing certain roles. Yeah, don't put a high D in charge of customer service. They will be bored within 5 minutes. Yeah, high C's going out knocking on doors, yeah, will end up not doing any work at all because they'll be scared about rejection. So finding the right person to fit the right role within your sales process is paramount. So people like Gary, Zach, you know, perhaps you a little bit, Paul, where you're one person, you've got to do everything, then you've got to learn a multi-skill. Okay, but long term, you want to bring specialists into each of these parts. So understanding your profile, when you recruit people, understanding their profile, the more you understand yourself, the more you can then start to understanding other people. Okay, so you can actually start to, without doing a test, when you meet a client. So Paul, you know, when you're selling to the NHS, yeah, what profile would you say you come across the most? The D, the I, the S, or the C?
Never sold to the NHS in my life.
Okay. So into your customer base, your sort of medical customer base.
Typically, it's definitely the more extrovert, because I'm dealing with, and it's part of my challenge, our business model, companies I've always worked with, is I'm dealing with distributors. So I'm never dealing with the end user.
Okay, the middleman in it, yeah.
Yeah. So they tend to be, certainly, you know, I know what I'm doing, I know my market, I know everything.
Yeah.
So certainly the top half.
Yeah. So if you're dealing with those people, if you're to S and C, yeah, to detailed, to subservient, you're not going to get anywhere. If you become 2D and if you try to out-D them, out-dominate them, you won't get anywhere either. So it's finding that right balance with those individuals as what the right level is, where you can be sort of, you know, dominant enough to get your point across, but not over dominant where you start to, you know, they feel threatened.
I think there's an added variable in my world, which is cultural. Yeah.
Culture will play a big part of that. You know, and certainly if you're going across the globe, you know, you can put those profiles into. Just quickly go back up to there. So if I went to Italy, and say I'm being very generalistic here, what type of profile would I see a lot of in Italy?
I?
Yeah, again, it's D or I.
D or I. Yeah, there's a lot of I's, inspiring, influent. The language is that way. Yeah, if I went into Germany, what profile would I see in Germany?
C for sure.
C.
D also.
Yeah, so more sort of over here. Okay, if I went onto the east coast of America, what would I see there?
D.
D, west coast of America.
The more S, I guess.
IS, yeah. Okay, so you can start to see culturally, it breaks down into this as well. Okay, so our strategy, will have to change depending on the client, the industry. So if I went into the medical industry, I'm probably going to get a lot more CS people. If I go into the entertainment industry, I'm going to get more IS people. Industries, it's very, humanity is quite tribal. We hang around people like us. So you tend to get sectors of people with similar profiles. Not always, you'll always get outliers. So you've got to understand when you're up against those people, but you can start to make sort of informed decisions on the type of people you're going to come across in your sales processes. Okay, so first one is be aware of it, understand yourself. So we've got the profiles that we can do. They're not expensive these days. You're looking about 50 quid to do a profile, but the information you get from that is really, really powerful. So, and certainly when you do your whole team as well and start using it. So, okay, so that's really a little bit about the B. Who do I need to be? My knowledge, my attitude, my skills, my understanding of myself, my internal. So then it's about what do I need to do? So the actions I need to take. Now, the first thing we've got to understand is, all of us are really busy. I know, Gary, you're doing sales isn't your only role. Zach, I'm assuming sales isn't your only role. You've got other things. Paul, it's probably a little bit more of your only role, but within that, you've got multiple aspects of it: marketing, customer service, multiple things. So time is always our most precious asset because we only ever have, a certain number of hours every day to get things done. Money comes, goes. You can always get more money. If you spend it, you can earn it back. Once time is gone, it's gone. So we've got to be very careful with planning and what we do with our time. And one of the tools I use a lot, I do this in my time management mastery, is called a default diary. So if we've got more things to do than we can ever get done, you have to start getting your rocks in place. The important but not urgent things. So if you've got to do sales meetings, then book them in your diary. Thursday, lunchtimes, afternoons is when I do my sales meetings. If you're doing calls, book them in. Now, understand your own biorhythms. When are you at your most active, your most sort of mentally alert? Get the difficult stuff done at that time. End of the week, when you're a little bit tired, fed up, do the easy stuff. Think about a school timetable. When you were back at school, first thing Monday morning was always double maths, double English. The hardest thing, but the most important thing that you needed to learn. Halfway through the week, afternoon was probably some form of sport. Friday afternoon, something a little bit more vocational. Okay, build that into your own diary and set your time to do the right things. Because if you don't book it in, then this is when things don't get done. Oh, I didn't do any sales this week. Why not? Well, I didn't book it in my diary. There will always be more stuff to get done than you can ever get done. So you've got to make sure the important stuff gets put into there. The next thing to think about, and this really sort of is the sort of rollover from marketing, is when you do get a lead inquiry in, what stage in the buying process are they? And if you were to take a sample of 100 leads, you'd probably find that 10% or so are ready to buy now. Some industries, it's a lot less than that. You get your leads a lot earlier. Some businesses, if you're just inbound, you get a lot later and it's a lot higher. But let's say it's around about sort of Get my pen to work again. There we go. Okay, so let's say that is around about 10%. You'll also come across people who are never going to buy from you. So you've got to dequalify those from the process as quickly as possible. Okay, get them out of the system. Okay, in sales, you're always trying to get to know as quickly as you possibly can. I know it seems counterintuitive, but I've always found that too many sales people in their pipeline have all these sort of, you know, oh yeah, they're going to do something one day. Okay, they're either going to buy from you or they're not going to buy from you. Now, they may not buy from you now, but you've got to understand, are they going to buy from you at some stage? So another, say, 10% will actually be in a position where they'll say, oops, 10% will say, right, we're never going to buy from you. So clear them off your list. Then you've got your sort of 40% that, yeah, somewhat interested, and another 40% that are not interested just yet. You've got them too early in their buying process. So when we think about our sales process, what we're trying to do is move these people from here to here. Okay, so the first thing you've got to do is understand where they are in that process. Because if you start going through a big, long sales process and they are here, yeah, they're just going to leave you because, yeah, actually, I want to buy now. I had this when I bought a car a few years ago. I came in, I wanted to buy that car. And the salesperson took me through this bloody long process about identifying what sort of car I wanted. No, I just want to buy that car. In the end, I gave up. I just thought, you know, if you can't bother to sell me a car, then I'm off. I'm going to buy something somewhere else. I'll go to Kazoo and buy it. So you've got to understand where they are in the process. If they're down here, yeah, down at this level, yeah, don't try and sell to them. They're not ready to be sold to yet. You've got to nurture them and take them up to a point where they're ready. So this is going to be your education and knowledge and keeping in touch, your nurture program, whatever that would look like. Okay, so too many salespeople I come across are scared of getting a no. Okay, no, I love no's. Yeah, what I hate is, you know, either no communication at all, which is what really pisses me off, yeah, or people sort of say, oh yeah, okay, but let me think about it. You know, I don't mind let me think about it if it really means, look, keep in touch with me because at some point in the future, yeah, I do want to do something. Yeah, but a lot of people are too polite to tell you to piss off. You know, they want to tell you to piss off, but they won't actually tell you. And then you're just wasting a lot of time and effort on those people. So you may as well just, you know, find out, push them until they sort of say no. So this process is getting them from here, so not quite interested to might be interested to ready to buy, yeah, is what we want to build that sales process. Okay, we've got to understand where people are, and we've got to have our tools to help us get from the left to the right. And one of the best books I've come across on this, and I've read a lot of sales books over the years, is this one by a guy called Tom Hopkins. It's a bit old school. It was written in, I think, the late 80s. It's quite a read. It's quite a heavy read. But what you pull out of it is something that's very, very simple. And he called it the 100% sales process. If you follow this process, you'll get 100% conversion. Okay. Now, while it's a lovely title, I don't agree with him. Well, I do agree with him because if you dequalify all the crap, then you'll get 100% of what's left. Okay. So the key is understanding, you know, what is a good lead and what is a bad lead. And he broke this process down into 4 component parts. This is why I love it, because for me, yeah, I didn't come, yeah, I'd say I came into sales very late in life and I needed something simple to follow. And his 4 sort of stages in this were build the trust, identify the need, show them how you can help, and then hurry them to a close. Okay, build the trust, identify the need, help them to understand how you can help, then make the close. And the key to this is, if you go into any of these too soon, you're going to lose the sale. So if you start helping people before you've built up enough trust and identified the need, you are not going to make the sale. And this, I did a LinkedIn survey. I think is that how you came across me, Paul, was the LinkedIn survey I did. And I said, which one of these three are people finding the most challenge? And the majority of people said it's help. I can't get across the value proposition. Yeah. The fact of that is it's not the help that you have a problem with. The problem you have is actually the two items before it. Because if you've done 1 and 2 really, really well, then 3 is as easy as anything. Okay. And if you're doing 1, 2, and 3, it's generally because you're not following up enough. You give up too soon. Okay, your nurture program, they weren't ready to buy yet, but you've got to keep in touch with them until they are ready to actually buy. So he took this process and then said, look, it's a little bit like reducing the buying resistance and increasing the buying acceptance. So he broke each one of these down into its component parts. What I say at the start, if you've got a challenge to overcome, you've got to break it down into its component parts and find out where it's going wrong. So if you're not building enough trust with somebody, it's probably because of these key things here. People don't see you as being credible, competent. They don't have a connection with you, this commonality. That's why I said D's sell to D's, because there's a commonality. We see the world in the same way. D's and S's don't see the world in the same way. So there's not much commonality. So if we don't have these basics within our process, then we're going to, we've got a bigger chance of failure. So we've got to look at our processes. How do we build trust with those people? And going back to your point, Gary, about the Chaz. Okay, Chaz is a qualification to say that you are competent at doing what you do, or more, hopefully more than competent at doing what you do. So that's part of your credibility and competency. So if you're not getting that across really early on in the sales process, you are going to reduce your chance of actually making a sale. So you've got to come up with a system, a way to get that message across as quickly and as effectively as you possibly can. Because you might say, well, I'm Chaz accredited. Do they know what Chaz means? Probably not. So sometimes we've got to back up what we say with information. Now it does start within your marketing. When you generate a lead, it starts with your website. It starts with your presentation. It starts with the way you answer the phone. If you imagine you phoned up a customer, and they said, hello. What's your instant reaction to somebody who says hello, in the trust building? If they say, hi, my name's Kevin, how can I help you? Then suddenly we've got, an intent statement in there is I'm here to help you. If I take 10 rings to pick up the phone, what does that say about my organization? If I go through to an answer phone that I can't leave a message on, in today's world, I phoned up 3 this week. I got to an answer phone that switched off. It said, I'm sorry, this person isn't available. Please try again later. Fuck that. I'm not trying again later. Why would you not put the effort in to these simple little things? They might seem small, marginal improvements, but together they make a massive, massive difference. So we've got to build into our process, how do we get all of these things? I haven't got enough time to go into what they all are, at the moment. Propriety is, goes down to your dress code. Are you dressed in a way that's proper with what you're trying to do? Is your website proper? Is the way you pick up the phone proper? Everything has to be right from their perspective. It's about their perspective, not your perspective. The next level then is the need identification. Now, these two can reverse. Okay, if you get an inbound inquiry saying, yeah, I need your services desperately. Yeah. Don't waste too much time on the trust. Okay. Go straight into need identification. Trust must come first where you're leading the sales. You're trying to get somebody to buy something they're maybe not quite thinking about buying. It's the urgency isn't there. So just be aware, if it's inbound, if it's urgent, then you can reduce the amount of trust, or trust can come after the need identification. Okay, don't delay the process. If they're ready to buy now, go straight into need identification. So the need identification is really about getting to understand why they need what they need. Now, the problem I get with a lot of people that have been in their business for a number of years, you know your business inside out, you know everything about why things are wrong. And you assume the customer, the prospect, has the same level of knowledge about that as you do. And that's where you get it wrong. Because if you assume that, you don't spend enough time here and you go straight into help. Okay, you straight into how can I help? Well, what you need is one of these. And the easiest way that I put this analogy is imagine I'm a doctor. Okay, I am the world's expert in shoulder problems. So Paul, you're going to be my patient. Okay, so you've been introduced to me, so therefore the trust is already there. Okay, the trust, you've been introduced to me, so the trust is already there. And you've got a really bad shoulder problem. Okay, I am the world's expert. I can spot shoulder problems from a mile off and diagnose them within 2 seconds. Okay, you don't know that at this stage. So you come into my doctor's surgery. Yeah. Hi, Paul. How are you doing?
Yeah, not great. I've got a really bad shoulder.
Have you? Oh, great. Well, look, as you walked in, I could see exactly what was wrong with you. Yeah, I've cured thousands of people just like you with that shoulder problem. Take 3 of these 3 times a day for the next 3 weeks and you'll be fine. See you later. So I've gone straight into help. That's what's going to help you. That's what's going to cure you. I am the world's expert. Yeah, you are now officially cured. As the customer, as the patient, how do you feel?
Well, you haven't even diagnosed it properly yet. So
yeah. But I'm the world's expert, Paul.
Yeah.
See, I know, but you don't know. So you'll go away, probably. You may take the pills, probably not. Will you ever come back and see me again? No. When I phone you up, I'll say, Paul, how's that shoulder? You won't even pick up the phone. Oh God, it's that Kevin. Yeah, he gave me those pills. Yeah, but I don't trust him. Okay, and you'll be that elusive person that will just say, "Oh, God, it's Paul. Yeah, I don't want to have that conversation." Now, that's what happens in technical sales. We find it a lot in technical. If you're selling something that's technical, where you've got the knowledge, they don't have the knowledge, then you risk that happening. And if you're getting sales where you can't get the value proposition across, it's because you haven't you've diagnosed too soon. The diagnosis is not as much, well, it's actually more for them than you. So we're going to replay this exercise now. So Paul, how are you feeling?
Yeah, not great.
Not great.
Shoulder.
That's really sad to hear that. Come on down. Tell me about your shoulder. When did it start? How's it affecting you? What impact is it having on your life? God, that must be terrible, Paul. Yeah, how are you coping? That's awful. So do you mind if I just prod around a little bit and see how it feels? Yeah. How does that feel? How does that feel? How does that feel? Yeah. When I hit the spot that really hurts, what do you do?
Yeah, no, it's a different level of engagement, isn't it?
See, I'm doing the inquiry, the need identification, not for me, because I know. Take 3 of these 3 times a day for the next 3 weeks, you'll be fine. I knew that the moment you walked in the door. The need identification is not for me. The need identification is for you. You've got to understand, I understand your needs so well that your trust level with me is at this level, and you go, yeah, that's what I need. So as soon as I push and you go, oh shit, that hurts, yeah, I've got you. Whatever I diagnose for you, you will take. And you'll go, that's bloody good. Really understood me, really got to what was the problem. Because often what they think the problem isn't the problem. I've got this problem with this thing. Is it the problem? I don't know. So if we get in that value proposition challenge, I question you to go back to the need identification. Yeah, if your problem is here, go back here. If your problem's here, go back here. If your problem's here, go back here. If you can't get past the trust line, you're never going to sell anything to anybody. Okay. If you want a copy of this slide, just ping me an email, and I've got a copy of this. I can send it to you, but it's detailed explicitly in that book. You know, sell it now, sell it today. So, but this is how we build the sales process. So, Zach, when you sort of said about the sales process, this is it. Okay, this is all you need. I've read so many books about it. It all comes back to this. It just talks about it in different languages. There's different ways of doing it, different sectors. If you're doing it on social media, it's the same thing. It's just a different language. If you do it through emails, it's the same thing. You know, but the process is the same. What you put on the process will be different, and it will constantly change. It will constantly improve. You know, because some things will work one year, they won't work the next year. Any questions on that? So I haven't got time to go into detail on it. It's something I sort of do a little bit more when I go into the one-to-one coaching with clients, and we really pull this apart and look at every level, create questionnaires. There's some need identification we can do early on, you know, and the help is about just then. Right, the help should be so easy once you've done the need identification. Take 3 of these 3 times a day for the next 3 weeks, you'll be fine. Okay, so the trust building is about empathy. You know, if we can't be empathetic with our clients, we're not going to actually sell to them. We've got to form some form of connection, and that does take a bit of trust, okay, and skills to do it. Some people are brilliant at it. You know, generally people I's and S's are really good at it on the DISC profile. D's and C's struggle with it. Okay, I's and S's are more empathetic. D's and C's are less empathetic. Okay, but understanding how we can provide empathy, you know, is understanding how we communicate as human beings. So we communicate through our words, our voice, our tonality, and our body language. And it's amazing if you when you break this down, a lot of people get stuck with the words that they're going to use. But words, the actual words we use, only accounts for about 7% of communication. Our tonality accounts for 38%, and our body language accounts for 55%. So if we go back to this, your point, Paul, about virtual, if we take away body language from our communication, suddenly we're left with this, the words and our tonality. Take away tonality and it's just an email, we're only left with 7% of communication. So email communication is the worst form of communication we do, because I've got no tonality with it. I've got no body language with it. If you're trying to close sales through emails, yeah, you're going to struggle. Now, there are some things you can do, and it's the right at certain times in the process because it's easy, but you've got to be very careful, yeah, your use of just word languaging, yeah, in a sales process. Telephone, bit easier, you get a little bit more if you can, and this is why for me Zoom does work, because you do get some body language, you know, because body language generally is from the waist upwards. Okay, so when you're doing a Zoom call, you know, you don't do a Zoom call sales like this. Okay, so Zach, Paul, You know, if you're doing Zoom calls to do sales like this, you're missing out on so much. Okay, you need to get a camera where you can see the top half, you can see your hands, you can see sort of the body language that's going on. Not as great as face to face, 100%. Okay, but you know, you've got to understand it's these little things that make a big difference. Okay, so communication, those skills, and they're skills, you learn these skills, you know. So over the years, as technology changes, as the world changes, you know, you've got to understand and keep up with it. Otherwise, you just end up doing, you know, what you've always done, get the same result. Getting the authority is really, you know, about the understanding this sort of difference in brains between logic and emotion. Now, go back to our D's and C's and I's and S's. D's and C's are logical people. Okay, we call it left brain. Yeah. I's and S's are right brain, emotional. Okay. When we come to a buying decision, yeah, the majority of buying decisions are based on a percentage of logic and a percentage of emotion. Any idea what that percentage split is? So if you're buying a car, if you're buying a piece of equipment, if you're buying, you know, it doesn't matter what you're buying. There's a few outliers which I'll explain, but the majority of decisions are logic, emotion. More emotional, yeah. Any idea percentages, Zach?
60-40.
60-40 emotion, logic, Zach? Any advances?
90 emotion and logic.
90 emotion. It's about what we call the Pareto rule. Okay, 80% emotion, 20% logic. So your job, if you know this, your job in the questioning, yeah, the need identification, is to find the emotion. Yeah, when I did the doctor-patient thing with Paul, what was the point at which I knew I had to sale? When I hit the pain point.
When you hit the nerve,
when I hit the nerve. When I hit the nerve, you see it. You see it in their face. You see it in their body language. Yeah, that's my problem. Geez, yeah, it's really bad. Okay, that's the point you get to the emotion. The emotion has to be a visual. Okay, that's why email doesn't work, because I can't see, unless somebody puts an emoji on there, which is pretty poor emotion. Yeah, I can't see how they're reacting to what I've said. So I send the proposal to them. Yeah, I have no idea how they're going to perceive that. Yeah, or even if they've actually looked at it, if I phone them up and say, look, here's the proposal. Yeah, I'd like to talk it through with you. Yeah, let's talk to it face to face. At least I can see what emotion I'm getting. Have I hit the pain or have I missed it by a mile? And the problem with, you know, the D's and C's is they become all logical. You know, the features of the business. Yeah, they might go into benefits, but I think it's even more than benefits. Yeah, it's about the need of that person. Have I actually met the need? Does the key fit the lock? So we've got to be looking in our process to get to this sort of emotion to allow somebody to actually go, yeah, okay, you've hit the button there. Are we good at questions? Are we good? Are we comfortable with sometimes, you know, taking people into a painful situation isn't comfortable. Okay? When I work with, you know, business owners, I have to take them to a point where, you know, they're actually realizing, look, they're not where they want to be. And where they want to be is a long way from where they are. And they go, geez, that's going to take, yes, it is. It's going to take probably 5 years. But do you want it enough? You know, do you want to overcome your pain enough to do what it takes to actually get it, to invest in my piece of equipment, to use my service, to accept my quote? Okay, so we've got to understand all buying decisions are emotion backed up by logic. If your logic doesn't stack up, yeah, then you won't get them. C's, D's and C's, possibly that percentage goes a little bit more to logic. I's and S's, perhaps that goes more to emotion. Eyes are generally the easiest people to sell to, because if they like you, they'll buy from you. C's, you need, they don't have to like you, they need a bit more logic. So you've got to work with, again, the industry sector. If you're dealing with scientists, it's probably going to be a little bit more logic, but never underestimate how much emotion plays on this. The only thing where emotion really doesn't kick in is commodity-based necessities. So if you're buying car insurance, Gary, how much emotion do you need to buy car insurance?
Nothing.
No. Okay, so you basically, the logical thing on car insurance is, which is the, what's your main decision? Sorry, Paul?
Cheapest.
The cheapest. Okay?
Logic with buying insurance.
Logic. I'm buying insurance. There's no emotion in it. So the logical thing is to buy the cheapest insurance for the best cover. Okay. So what was created based on that buying process? Compare the market. Okay. They understood that, and they built a whole business about signing you up to get the cheapest quote. But then what happened was how many buying comparison sites started.
Yeah.
Compare the market, confused.com, there's a dozen of them. How do you choose which one to buy from? What did compare the market do in order to get you to buy from them?
Gave you a fluffy toy.
Gave you a fluffy toy, created a bloody meerkat. What does that tap into? Logic or emotion? Emotion. So even a logical decision suddenly becomes an emotional one because they understand how the mechanics of the human brain work.
That's so clever. Because compare the meerkat or whatever, they made a brand, because at the end of the day, you're not actually buying their insurance. They're not an insurance.
No, they're just a middleman.
Wow.
So they could use emotion for you to use their site as opposed to somebody else buying a logical site which you just bought on price. Wow. Okay, so understanding this is vitally important. And boiling it down into your industry, your sectors, culturally, Paul, this changes across the world as well. Those percentages change, but it's always an emotional decision. Emotions can be different, but it will always come back, because at the end of the day, we're human beings. The other thing we've got to understand is if we want somebody to change, from what they're doing. So if they've already got a supplier at the moment, they're buying quite happily from where they are, there will be a resistance to change. Now, that resistance will be many factors. So you need to understand what those resistance factors could be. So let me take your bank. So Gary, how long have you been with your personal bank?
Lloyd's Bank, probably 16 years.
16 years, okay. So there will be a resistance to changing banks. They're saying, you can switch your bank now within seconds. Okay, and there's lots of deals out there that will give you a better deal than where you are with Lloyd's, yet you're still with Lloyd's. So if I talked about your resistance, what would be 2 or 3 things that would be a resistance to changing?
16 years worth. I think it's the time in that case, because then I'd have to start again with someone else.
Time it takes, the hassle factor, will things, will payments go out? I've got to change. All of these things will be your resistance. So the only way that I can overcome that resistance for you is if this formula works. I've got to build this side of the formula to actually make it work. Now, if I built on the first steps, which is, look, fill in this form and it will change, is that in itself going to be enough to overcome this resistance? No. Okay, because on this formula, it's a multiplication here and a plus here. Okay, so it will help, but it won't overcome. The only way I'm going to overcome your resistance is your dissatisfaction with your current bank, and your vision of changing banks is big enough to overcome that resistance. Yeah. So until I can, if you're not dissatisfied with Lloyd's, you're never going to change. if I could create an amazing vision of coming to use Kev's Bank that will provide you a bottle of champagne every month, you know, you get to come to all the best parties in the world, you know, all of this for £9.99 a month, yeah, then you might go, actually, that sounds fantastic, I'll do that. If you're dissatisfied and I can create a vision, then you'll overcome that. Okay, so in our need identification, in those questions that we're using, I've got to start digging into the dissatisfaction. I've got to start identifying where, because my help is about the vision, how my vision is going to actually overcome your needs. Okay, so it's really about that, understanding how this formula works, because most people just go, well, actually, they need a brochure. I need a better brochure. I need a better website. Yeah, that's not what they need. They need to understand what their pain is, yeah, and what the vision of life after is going to be like. Okay, so we've got to, in our process, build these into it. As I said, the need identification is about asking questions. I ask a question, I get an answer. I ask a question, I get an answer. I keep digging deeper, 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 because the first answer they give you is not always the right answer. Okay, so we've got to dig deeper until we get to a point generally where we hit the emotion, and then they ask the question, which is, how can you help me? And the key here is if you ask a question, they answer, yeah, and then there's silence. How do you feel when there's silence? How was that? How did that feel? That bit of silence there feel to you?
I don't know. It's time to think. Someone's thinking. You've hit a nerve.
Yeah. How did you feel, Paul, when I just stopped speaking?
I just thought my Wi-Fi dropped out again.
That's the problem with this, is, oh shit, it's not working. But actually, silence can feel uncomfortable for some people. Certainly for D's and I's. D's and I's, you hate silence. If there's silence, they want to fill it. So they carry on talking. But they've run out of questions, so they just start talking bullshit. And then they go, okay, so do you want to buy? Well, not really. Once you've got to this level of depth, you ask that question, they give you an answer, and then you shut up until they ask you a question. And then you answer with, great, I'm glad you asked that question. This is how we go forward. Too many salespeople talk too much, yeah, and basically talk themselves out of the sale. You've got to understand your questions you're asking, the depth that you're going till you get to an emotion, and then you wait for them to ask you a question. That silence often is uncomfortable. Okay. And sometimes they'll turn around and say, a bit like you did there, I thought my Wi-Fi had gone. Yeah, or was I supposed to say something? If they say that, then you haven't got to the emotion. You haven't asked the right question. You need to go a bit further. Okay, you've got to be able to get to a point where you're identifying what their real need is, and then they go, yeah, that's my real need. So how can you help? Okay, so that takes, that takes time to build that. It takes skill to be able to do that. It takes patience to be able to do that. You've got to understand your profile of the person you're selling to, because C's will take a lot more time to think about it than D's. D's will tell you straight away. I's will tell you straight away. C's, that period of quietness can bloody seem like hours. So, okay, so you've got to understand your profile and their profile. And then the help, how do I help? Again, going back to the identification of how people take information in, there are three ways three modalities of learning, three ways that we take in information: through what we see, what we hear, and what we experience, touch and feel. And each one of us is slightly different on the way we take in information. The general population in the Western world is we're 40% of the population are visual, 20% are auditory, and 40% are kinesthetic. Okay, I'm a visual kinesthetic. Okay? I have very low auditory input. So if I'm in a car and somebody verbally gives me directions, I'll get to the first corner and I've forgotten what they've said. Okay, so if you're selling to me, yeah, and you just give me verbals, yeah, I might want that product so badly, but within 5 minutes of you telling me what it was, it's gone out of my head. It's gone. If I can see it, and more important, if I can experience it, then you've got me. Okay, but other people are different. So it's because I'm like that doesn't mean the people I'm selling to are like that. So if I can understand through my questioning, through my relationship, then of what they like, then I can build my proposition to them in that way. So is it visual? Okay, does it need to be a PowerPoint? Does it need to be a brochure? Is it auditory? Do I need to explain it? Is it kinesthetic? Do they need to be able to touch something? Again, just sending them an email, okay, it might work, but probably won't work, you know. We've got to be thinking a little bit more cleverly with the type of people we're dealing with, yeah, and the best way to get the communication of how we can help across to them. One of the best ways I've found with this is I did a little 10-minute explainer video that I now just send people. So watch that. If you get it, then give me a call. Because it's visual, it's auditory. Okay, it's not me in front of them, kinesthetic, but you know, that's the bit that they get afterwards. So video sometimes can work, you know, again, meeting them in person, it's more kinesthetic, might be the best way to achieve that. But building that into your process is fundamental. And then the hurry side of things is about, you know, a no is not a no now. Oh, it's a no now, but it's not a no never. I should say never. I don't know. It's hidden under the post-it. So following up is key, because people get perturbation. Okay. There's always, you know, if I'm taking a risk in moving away from a current supplier, or if I'm buying yours, there's always a risk. We talked about that, dissatisfaction and vision. There's always a risk. Now, the bigger the risk, the less chance I'm going to actually buy, but there's always a risk in somebody's head, that resistance. And that transition from moving from where I was to where I want to be can create an emotional state. Okay, so if Gary, you're going to, let's say, little old lady down the road wants a new patio, and she's umming and ahhing, oh, should I buy this? Should I not buy this? Yeah, she's in an emotional state. Now, hopefully you've done all of that. You know, you've got through to why she needs it, but there's always a time where it's not quite enough. You haven't quite got into the point where you want to be. So this emotional state is what we call perturbation. I feel perturbed. Something's not quite right with this. And if we ignore that, if we take the heat off, if we don't follow up, it's like trying to take a pan of boiling water and turn it into steam. Yeah. If we want to turn that into steam, we've got to accept that transition period is quite turbulent. There will be emotions that are given out, and that emotion in a buying decision is perturbation. So often people are not taking action because they feel perturbed. Something's not quite right. So if it's not quite right, our job is to actually push and say, look, you know, what normally people in your situation would make a decision pretty quickly. There's clearly something that I haven't explained to you that's not quite right, that means you're not making that decision right now. Is it okay if we just go back and explore what that could be? Okay. Often when they give you a price objection, oh, it's too expensive. Yeah, the price, that's an easy one. Okay, if I know I've done trust, need help, hurry, yeah, then the price is very rarely is that an objection. Goes back a little bit to your point, Paul, is the value. Okay, well, it's not about the price though. It's about you're not 100% sure that the value of what I'm delivering is going to be there. So sometimes we've got to go back into that process and say something in that process I didn't do well enough, or I assumed that I'd overcome that and I clearly haven't overcome that. So is it okay if we come back and I deal with that now? If you let it go, then you take that heat off, that pressure off, it'll just go back to a static pan of water, and then they'll start ignoring your calls. Okay, you've got to hit this early on and decide whether it is a legitimate reason why they're delaying or it's just selling you down the line. And the other key thing to understand is, that follow-up is so important. I had a client, that came on board about 6 months ago. It took me 5 years to get him across the line. Okay, now I had to decide every time, is this one worth pursuing? Or should I just ditch it? And probably 80% of the people now I ditch, because I'm too busy, I've got too many things, and to be honest, at my stage I don't need it. Okay, but there are one or two that I go, actually, I know you need this, I know that you're going to benefit from this, and it's just the time isn't right now, so I'm willing to work with you, and I'll keep in touch to actually make sure that that we are there, because 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. Often it takes time, to overcome. Certainly the bigger ticket items can take a lot longer than the smaller ticket items. And then you've got to think, well, how do I keep this going? How do I actually make sure there's consistency? The big thing, certainly where you're bringing other people into it, is you might have it off pattern. You could just do it with your eyes closed, but can you teach it to somebody else? Once you've gone out of your organization, will there be a legacy of a process that is there to actually make it happen? So we have to systemize it. The system sets you free. It provides consistency. It's measurable. You can break it down into those component parts. You can measure each one. Where are people falling off on that process? Am I not getting them through the trust phase? Is it the need phase? I can train a system. Okay, I can't train if it's in my head. If I make it up, if it's different every time. I can provide accountability, and more importantly, I can replicate it. Okay, so you've got to be thinking about all of this goes into a system that can continue and be replicated and to grow. And in order to achieve that, you have to have a CRM system, a client relationship management system. I don't think you can do sales in today's world without one of these. Now, at a basic level, if you're just starting out, use a spreadsheet. Okay, it's a system. It's a database. You put things in boxes, you keep boxes. But understand, if you're going to build, a business that is going to be bigger than just you're going to need something more robust. Okay, I don't know, Zach, Paul, do you use? I know. Gary and I, we've been talking about this over the years, but do you use CRM systems?
Just got an Excel sheet.
Excel sheet. Okay, it's better than nothing, but reasonably quickly, if you're serious about growing your business, get that information to a CRM system. You can get, if you want to start cheap, HubSpot do a free version. Okay, it's a good system. Sorry.
Which one would you recommend?
It's very difficult to recommend because everyone's different. I use Salesforce. It's a bit of a sledgehammer to crack a walnut, but it's a very good system. but Zoho's a good system. But to start with, because it's free, I would just say HubSpot. Just be prepared that they will try and upsell you to their bigger, flashier version, which you can do, and it is a good system, but you don't need it. Okay, Paul, I mean, there are industry-specific ones as well, and if you can't find one that builds it, I've got a client who actually builds them for you, so he'll take what you want and build it. But I'd say use one to start with until you understand what your system is and make sure it can't cope, and then you say, right, can you migrate this information to a new one, and this is what I want. I wouldn't build one from scratch to start with. There's more important things to do. Paul, what system do you use?
My system is trying to convince the CEO that it's a good investment to make.
Okay, then you just say this is a non-negotiable. If you want to achieve these sales targets, which we don't know what they are, then we need a process. We need a system. But again, just if he's not saying it, use HubSpot. It's free, so something's better than nothing. And once the data's in there, it's easy to get the data out. Yeah, okay, you'll waste a bit of time, but it's better to have something that you're working on, because it'll give you all the data as well. You can put off reports. What's my conversion rate? How many leads did I generate? Where are people? Where's my next task? Who have got a phone next week? Once you get beyond probably about 50 or so leads, a spreadsheet just starts to fall apart. It's fine to start with. I wouldn't say it's better than nothing, but I would definitely recommend using a CRM system. But before you use a CRM system, map out your process first, because the CRM system is only as good as the data you put into it. Okay, you've got to actually map it out. What is my trust, need, help, hurry process? Okay, there's a little program called XMind, X with a dash MIND, will allow you to do sales processes like this for free. Okay, if and but sort of things, but draw it out, use post-it notes. It doesn't have to be complicated, but think about, okay, what do I do to build trust? What are the steps that I do to identify the need? How do where's my hurry? How do I follow up? And to get to that close.
I've got a question. How many times would you follow up?
As many as it takes, Zach. As many as it takes till you get to a no. I either get to a no, or you've got to be sure that that person is, where they are in the process. Okay. And the hardest, frequency. I always be in control of the next follow up. So when people say, "Oh, I'll call you," never accept that. Okay.
Yeah.
It's always okay. So look. So it's going to take you a little bit of time to think about it. How long do you normally take on these things? Is it a week? Is it a day? Is it a month? Great. Well, is it okay? I'll call you back on this date at this time, and then you put that in your database, and then you make sure you phone them up on that time. Because if you do, you've basically said, I do what I say I'm going to do. Okay. If you say I'm going to phone you back in 2 weeks, again, I would make a point of it. I'll phone you back on Friday the 13th at 10 o'clock. Friday the 13th at 10. They won't remember, but you can say, hi, Zach, I said I'd call you back at Friday the 13th at 10 o'clock. It's Friday the 13th at 10 o'clock. Even if you have to leave an answer message, you've done what you said you're going to do. That is a massive trust builder. Okay. I've still got, I get annoyed with tradespeople because I had one the other day. They gave me a quote 2 months ago and they've never phoned me up. I'm waiting to buy, but it's not the most important thing. So it's just, I must get around to that. They've never bloody phoned me up. I think that's criminal, absolute criminal. They've gone to the effort of coming out, seeing me, talking to me, giving me a quote, and they've never followed it up. How many of me are there? How many sales are they wasting by doing that? Okay, don't be the person that doesn't follow up.
I know. Okay. I've been guilty of that quite a few times.
Look, we all are. We all are. I mean, I'm not, because I've got a CRM system, and every Monday morning I have a list of people I have to phone up. Okay, and sometimes I look at this and go, yeah, that person, do I need to phone him up? Probably not. I'll put it back a week. But next week it will be there, and it will be a reminder, and then it'll be a right, fucking hell, I've just got to phone this person up. And, you know, make sure you got scripts, checklists. You know, these are all things that you add in so that you've got that consistency to make sure it happens. Cool. So hopefully you've got a bit of an understanding. Say this is sales, okay? It's not marketing. It's not customer service. This is about taking a lead that's come in, nurturing that lead and getting that lead to convert, building the trust, identifying the need, showing how you can help, and then making sure that you actually close. There is a lot of detail in each of those. You know, I use it because it's simple, you know, but it gives you the framework. The complexity, the difficult bit is actually finding out what works for you. But don't be scared about testing and measure it. Try it. If it doesn't work, great. Improve it. Get it better next time. It's a constant and never-ending improvement cycle. You can always be better at it. So for yourself, but also for your teams as well. So first thing, measure your 5 ways. Get your goals. Paul, you know, if your bosses aren't giving you your goals, then just set some bloody goals yourself. Don't you can't sit there, blame excuses, deny, well, I didn't have any goals. Set them. Right, this is what I'm going to try and achieve for you. And they'll go, fucking hell. At least somebody's got an idea of where we're going to go. So think about your limiting beliefs, get your DISC profiles done, and said, you know, it's a relatively cheap process. Even if you have to invest in it yourself, you know, you are your number one asset. I would still recommend you do that. And then think about your process, break it down into those 4 chunks, and then break those chunks down and work out what tools you've got already, what tools you're going to need to add as you go forwards. And then that becomes part of your 90-day plan that you're constantly building that as you go forwards. So it's been great working with you today. Any final questions? Have I answered, you know, closing scripts? You know, it's really about, you know, making sure that you follow up. The finding the decision makers, manufacturers. It's, for me, Zach, it's understanding who they are, how they respond. You know, if you're taking one of those through the process, what do they need from their perspective, not your perspective? And then post-COVID remote selling, Paul, all of those things matter. You've just got to build that in how it works remotely. Okay, that's the key to it. It's actually harder because you're more reliant on non or less emotional cues, more logical, and you've got to get it back somehow to the emotion within this.
So my big takeaways are: start my own free CRM. Thank you.
Yep.
And I'm probably guilty of too many emails and not enough calls, often based on language, actually. But I think I take from this as well that I need to do a little bit more of, you know, actual talking to people, because you've confirmed my belief, and it's my experience that relationships I have with customers change when we've met. And you know, that dynamic of emotion and people and all of those things happen much better when it's just a faceless, you know, an email that pops in and you choose to ignore it.
I mean, Zoom is a good halfway house. I mean, it's not perfect, you know, but when you do come on Zoom, make sure you build the emotional connection, the commonality. Yeah, don't go straight into. It's easy, just like a telephone call, straight into business. No. How are you? You know, what's, you know, how you know, you've got to use a little bit of that sort of, you know, emotional connection first, because if you don't have that, it's just a transaction and you're just relying on 20% of the brain, and it's hit or miss.
Is there any other way apart from phone that you'd recommend to sell?
In what way is that?
Like would you recommend phone sales to be like the #1, or is there something else?
Depends on the time. It depends on so many different things. I mean, if you're going back to which is the best medium to get clients. You know, you've got to look at, I do that in the marketing workshop. It's about identifying your target, what's your offer, and then how do I communicate that? Okay, so it's so specific on who the number one thing in marketing is who is my target markets. The more specific you can be with your target, the easier marketing is. If you say, I just want clients, well, you know, you're just going to waste shitloads of money.
Yeah.
Okay. If you say, right, I want manufacturing companies within a 10-mile radius of where I am, of this particular size doing this, then your marketing becomes a lot more focused and a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
so
what's meant by,
sorry?
What's meant by the 5 ways?
So I missed the first bit about the 5.
Yeah, it says measure your 5 ways. What's meant by 5 ways?
The 5 ways, you remember lead generation, conversion rate, number of transactions, average transaction value, and margins. Okay, those are the 5 things that make your profit up at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Okay, what I'll do, Zach, is that there's a video that I've got on my website. I'll make a note to send you a copy of that to have a watch. Okay, because that will explain it in a bit more detail.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there's a bit more time in that one. This one, most people that come onto this already know about that system, and this is one part of that system. So I don't go into it to too much detail. But I'll send you that one if you're interested to go into more depth around it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So if there's any questions you've got afterwards, please drop me an email. If I can be of assistance going forwards, I say this is one of a series of 6. I'd love to to get you into more of those. But if you do just want just a general chat about how coaching might better help within the business going forwards, more than happy to sort of talk about an ongoing relationship to get you to where you want to be. But otherwise, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you very much. Nice to see you again, Gary. And I will see you soon. So take care and bye for now.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nam.
Ta-ra.